Alright, this is Eddie G. I'm doing a video on changing an oil cooler on a 2003 PT Cruiser GT Turbo. This is the actual oil cooler. What happens is two things can happen. Either you get some erosion or some kind of cracks that form right in here, and it'll start to actually seep through. And also that O-ring right there goes bad. For whatever reason, it starts to leak right here, and you're trying to figure out where it's coming from. You're checking the oil pan. Oil pan looks good, and you finally realize this.
Next, let me say this is a very messy job. You got to pull. Try to get around here without getting dripped on. All right, you got to pull the cooling lines. First, you pull your oil filter. That's what I did. Well, you could probably pull the cooling lines first, the coolant lines, but you better be ready to capture all your coolant because it's going to come pouring down to you. So you capture all the coolant as much as you can, as much will drain out of there, and then you can pull your oil filter. Of course, it's going to continue to drip. I probably should have pulled the coolant lines first, but you can see where my oil cooler was leaking from there. And then the next thing is to separate it from the adapter. The adapter is a part that puts it to the oil pan. Those 4 bolts there. So that's what I'm going to work on next. I'll try to capture that for you guys and then give you a heads up on how I did it. Alright. Okay, I believe the next thing to do is to pull that center oil filter threading boss thing right there. I don't know what you call it, but that's the only thing I can see that goes through. It's going to be able to thread into the adapter. So alright, team. So that thing right there is a thread stand. It's a 12mm hex socket, okay? So, I'm trying to hold this steady for you guys. Crud buckets, man. Alright, so you throw your 12mm hex socket in there, and you back that joker out counterclockwise, just like that. Just like that. See that piece of cake, right? Oh yeah. And you spread it out. I'm trying to do this with one hand. It's a real pain. And then the next thing you're gonna do, I think, is tap that joker out. So stand by. It's kind of close quarters here with the camera. And she's out, friends. Just like that. Alright, so here's the oil cooler removed. And as you can see, it was leaking all over. It's a possibility that there was casting failure, like on the inside. It caused it to leak in the fins. Let me just dump that coolant out. But here you see on the back side, you got this O-ring right here. And you can see where it was kind of leaking from this area here. So this O-ring right here, people have a hard time finding that O-ring to replace it. My new cooler already came with an O-ring, and so being that it comes with a new O-ring, I'm just going to lubricate it, put it back on, because this basically just fits on the same adapter that if you did not have a cooler, you could just put your oil filter right on. So look up here, look at me. Oh yeah. So I'm going to put the new one on. It's kind of reverse the process. Now, hopefully this will stop the leak. If it doesn't, we got more problems. Alright, so here's a problem that I was reading about online on one of the forums. And that is that your part comes already put together like this. Anyway, this is your stand. That's what secures it. The issue that they're having is that this new one that I just picked up from the parts store, alright, the hose fittings are much larger. As you can see, the hose nipples are much larger than on the factory. Right? So I've got this size of hoses. I got to go on this size of tubes. So what I'm going to have to do is find out exactly what size these are. I'll probably take these to AutoZone, get me a fitting kit of some kind, and splice the new hoses, splice some new hoses onto here that are going to then reduce them down to the size that's on the vehicle already, because I'm not about to change the hoses. No need for that. Alright, so as mentioned, we have 2 different size fittings here. This is the original, which is about a 1/2 inch inner diameter hose. This is the new one from Chrysler. It requires a 5/8 inner diameter hose. So my fix is I went to, first I tried the auto parts store. They didn't have anything. So I went to the hardware store and I picked up a couple of fittings to create my own adapters. Alright, so I picked up, in this case, it's a 5/8 that threads into a 1/2 inch. Put 2 of those on there, put a little bit of Teflon tape. I got me my new clamps right here, and I got me a piece of pipe. That's 5/8, piece of heater hose. And I'm going to connect it, and it should all work just fine. Alright, so what I've done is I've created my own fittings. Got the stuff from the hardware store, put that 5-inch piece of pipe in, or a piece of tubing, connecting that to the new cooler. Then these will go into the stock lines that are on the vehicle. And that'll solve our problem for instead of having to change out the whole line, boom, make our own adapters. Good show.